All right, folks, happy Valentine's Day. Let's celebrate here by taking a look at these green candles on the charts. Absolutely love to see it. Now, if you're new here, just please understand, I don't have any sponsors. I just show up every day here. I talk about current events, these financial markets with a focus on cryptocurrency. And then I just share moves that I make and how I'm running my business. I keep it simple. Let's understand something very clear though. Although I have highlighted how I've picked up a few coins as of late, I've bought into some green candles, I've FOMO'd in, and I'm guilty of sleeping on a couple of projects that my community had brought to me. I just hadn't taken enough time to research them and make the investment. And we've seen huge run up in some of these coins. It's fantastic. And there are three: Flare, the SEI token, SEI, and then the other one obviously being our most recent pickup, and that is the Stronghold token. Appreciate you guys for stopping by. By the way, everything can be found on my website, zachrector.com. You already know that. So the SEI token, Flare, and Stronghold. And we see that Stronghold has gone crazy. I dropped a video earlier today highlighting what I've seen on Stronghold so far. Some positives, some great fundamentals, great story, great narrative, some concerns, couple questions, very simple questions. And upon those answers, I will update. It's my crypto journey, right? And I'm not going to, pretend that I really have, done hours upon hours of research on this project. When I've looked at it for a couple hours, it looks solid. And I'd already picked up a position that I just like coming on here and giving you guys the context, being transparent. And I wanted to highlight the reason why I'm even bringing this up to start off this live show is to let you guys know I have not sold any of my XRP. I have not lost any faith or conviction on my XRP. In fact, when we talk about fundamentals, what we're about to get into tonight is exactly why my conviction on the fundamentals on this investment thesis have only grown incredibly stronger. Now, we're talking about the acquisition of Standard Custody and Trust, Charter Bank, New York Department of Financial Services certified. This is it. With the announcement that products are going live in the US, and then boom, we pick up a bank charter in the United States. And we talked about the position that Ripple's been in to acquire whatever they see fit during this chaos, during this disruption, recession, and the broader economy happening. Obviously, with the tech space being disrupted, the fintech space, you have all sorts of new companies coming online here. And then you have the custodian side of it. Ripple's acquisition is a massive deal. And for once, I feel like we got a tip. We had the former Ripple employee, and I'm going to share a couple of his tweets here tonight. And he was the one that said, big news is coming for Ripple and XRP, right? This was massive. This was absolutely massive. And it took like 2-3 days after, right? And then boom, Ripple set to acquire Standard Custody and Trust. And I'm going to break down in tonight's episode why this is such a big deal. I wanted to go through, as we always do with our live shows, a few data points on the current events. We'll talk broader economy, and then we're going to hone in on cryptocurrency with a focus on major, massive news coming in for Ripple and XRP. No clickbait. Of course, I get excited. Some call it hype, but the fundamentals that I'm looking at are for real. Meanwhile, with all these other projects, 99% of them, I can slide them across my desk. And the time that it takes to slide it onto my desk, I can might as well just shove it off the other end when I look at the fundamentals on many of these projects. It's just that simple. And what we're seeing here today, and as I wanted to reiterate, I have not sold any of my XRP. I have not lost any conviction on Ripple's mission and where they're heading. But I have, stacked a few others that I am admittingly FOMOing into green candles because, okay, the fundamentals are there, my community was right, and I should have listened to them. And I am so happy that everybody's making money. The fact that I miss an opportunity, quote unquote, miss an opportunity, even though I've already doubled my money as it sits right now, is that it doesn't stop anybody else from making that investment. That's my whole thing, is to show you guys how I review these cryptocurrency projects, why 99.9% of them I don't care to invest in, so that you guys can find them. And I'm so proud of our community. So many good stories, from just people stacking thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars. I know there's people out there on Twitter and in the internet world that are talking about making six figures. And it got me so excited because this is what's coming to the broader cryptocurrency space as we enter this next bull run. And the question has to be, okay, you go make 50 racks. You go stack six figures. You become a Dogecoin millionaire. Then what? And this is when we bring it back to our fundamental question that makes folks sometimes a little bit uncomfortable. We just simply ask, how's your program working out? Because we want to be set up, we want something cooking before we become a Dogecoin millionaire. Because that's just going to put more fuel on our fire. We're going to have investment vehicles. We're going to have relationships with advisors and professionals to make sure that we protect our assets, pay as little in taxes as legally possible, and actually build generational wealth. Not just become a Dogecoin millionaire and then that's your life, that's your story. How are we going to build something great here? How are we going to build generational wealth? I'm not here to make 100 grand. I'm here to make a lot more than that. And I'm here to stack up more than a milli cash, some M's in the bank account. No. Millions of dollars of property, millions of dollars in businesses, millions of dollars in cash flow. That's what it's about. Not just talking about it. Setting up the vehicles, getting it going, getting it rolling. And then when you get the Dogecoin millionaire money, you're off to the races. And I'm so worried, I'm so concerned for our community as we head into this bull run for folks that are, one, still learning, brand new, trying to get those folks caught up to speed. But then even the folks that have been in crypto for a while, what is the exit strategy? What is the reallocation program? What vehicles do we move crypto profits, crypto gains into next? How do we not have to hand it over all in taxes? And how do we roll it into something else that's going to at least either protect it, or if we're going to try to keep multiplying it, depends on what side of your portfolio that's on. We got to get tapped in right now though, folks, because the green candles are coming in massive rallies. Cleaning me out. It's a blessing that no exchanges will allow me to short, because I can tell you right now, I'd be having to add margin because I'd be getting liquidated if I wasn't on where I thought this thing was going. Now, I'm going to show you guys my Bitcoin chart. Remember, I keep my TA basic, and I am calling for a correction. So if you want to be mad at me for calling for a correction, leave a comment down below and tell me how mad this, how upset you are that I'm calling for a correction. But that's not to say that Bitcoin hasn't really shocked me, really surprised me, taking a look at it, up to 52,000. 52,500 is where we just went at in the last couple hours. Trading back down here at 52.1. I'm on the 4-hour chart zoomed out. And this is our Bitcoin pump that's been taking place through the beginning of this month of February. Just absolutely ripping. Ethereum up to 2,800, 2,825. XRP printing a green candle as we speak, folks. 54, almost 55 cents. XRP ripping. XLM, how about those green candles? Love to see it. Algorand, 18 cents. Your XDC still coming in below 4.5 cents. Still got some opportunity out here, some would say. Solana back up to 116. Yes, Flare hanging out above 3 cents. Stronghold, just absolutely ripping, as I covered in the video that I just dropped earlier today. Let me zoom out here for you guys on the daily chart so we can get a little bit more perspective. If you bought Stronghold any point last year, I mean, you're talking 30x gains, 36x to the top. But even my apologies, I'm just taking a rough measurement here. You're still, right? You're still talking incredible gains here. Yeah. Now for me, the fundamentals here haven't changed. We're incredibly long-term bullish. It's just we got a bumpy ride. We have a lot of manipulation still present. And understanding that, placing your bets and hedging properly is all that's important, right? And making sure that you can stay liquid. That's really been the big deal. You can tell, that we're getting tight out here. right? You don't have to be an economics professor to understand and have some common sense and walk the streets out here, go to Main Street, go to talk to businesses, and you see what's happening. And then also when you do look at the fundamentals on the broader market, you can see the fluff that's in there. The breadth of the S&P 500 is non-existent. You have 7 companies that have kept the story going. The cost of capital now has doubled. This isn't tracked in inflation. And we did get that hotter CPI print earlier this week. That was yesterday. And I'm going to talk about that here in 1 second. But this is why I am watching very closely. I'm going to show you the chart too, correlating today's stock market price with 1929. This is very interesting, folks. I'm getting updates on my charts right now. XRP up to 55 cents. We're watching this thing pump right now as we speak, folks. We'll check back in the charts later. Drop your comments and questions down below, and thank you for stopping by. Big session coming in. We've been talking about all the world's a stage. Well, today's act, the national security threat involving Russia wanting to put nuclear weapons in space is what we were looking at. Okay, so it came out today. It was weird how it was getting trickled out to us, right? First, it was a threat. They couldn't talk about it. They were begging Biden to declassify it. Then it became a space deal. And then eventually they came out with the full story, which is that he wants to put nukes in low Earth orbit so that he can take out satellites or, whatever he finds, whatever his reasoning may be over there. That is the threat that we now face. And so I just found it interesting that we have just been bombarded within the last couple weeks here. I mean, even since the Super Bowl, right? There was that horrific shooting that took place at the Super Bowl parade. And then we see this going on here with Putin. We see this is just, once again, taking us into this next year. The chaos, the distractions only continue to pick up. Only fuels our opportunity even more, though. Now, continuing on to the next point here, folks, we see this from Peter Schiff in his comments on the CPI. Investors still don't get it. Today's hotter than expected CPI doesn't mean the Fed just needs to fight a bit harder to win the inflation fight, but that it's already lost. It's not just a matter of delayed rate cuts, but the horrific truth that high inflation is here to stay. So this is why we've been in alignment with a lot of Peter Schiff. I don't have to agree with him on Bitcoin, and I think that I agree with him on digital assets, right? He talks about gold backing, precious metals backing, commodity backing, cryptos. I think that he's starting to come around to it, and maybe one day I'll get Peter Schiff on the show and we can talk about it. But in the meantime, I love his analysis. It's spot on. When you try to decode this data, you need to get in line with understanding how they come up with these funny and fake numbers, because it's completely not correlated to the reality that we're experiencing on Main Street when we go to fill up, and when we go to, obviously, energy, gas, food, everything that matters getting stripped out. But even when you take their CPI lie, even at their own metrics, it's ticking back up. And it ticked back up last read, and then the one that we got here brought us back down to 3.1, but they were forecasting us to drop even lower, to 3% or lower, is where they were expecting us to go. So it's still coming in hot at 3.1, core still coming in, I think, about 4, and so we're still nowhere near that 2% target that the Fed is trying to achieve, which is why we've been in the camp of higher for longer until inflation actually gets beat, but we were betting that he's not going to beat the fight against inflation. He was able to cool it, but they have not won. But they just moved the goalpost, right? It's no big deal. They're the Federal Reserve. They're not even part of our government. They just moved the goalpost. And this is what I'm worried about, is that when they do come in to cut, we're going to see the exact same thing that we've seen every time in the last 45 years, essentially, is that when they go to cut rates, that we're already going to be in a recession, or we're going to be heading into a recession. Now, Tavi Costa shares this chart right here, the S&P 500 now versus 1929. Although we all know markets don't tend to perfectly follow these trading analogs, the chart below gives us a valuable historical context to the recent run-up in U.S. stocks. The correlation says it all. It is remarkable the eerie similarities between today's environment and the period that led up to the Great Depression, right? It was the shoeshine boy giving stock tips during the Great Depression. Now it's TikTokers and YouTubers, right? And you look at this chart right here, though, S&P 500 now versus 1929, and the correlation is 0.94. That's pretty dang close. Pretty dang close. And as I've highlighted, the only time the Fed's been able to achieve a soft landing in the last 45 years doing what they're trying to do right now, raise rates and then cut them, they've only avoided a recession one time, and it was 85, 86, and all it did was breathe a little bit more life into the market until we got the 87 crash, which was horrific for markets. Similar to that 1929 crash, and similar to the 2008 and the dot-com bubble as well, right? Now, another downward pressure data point that we need to take a look at is this one right here. Genesis gets court approval to sell 1.6 billion in Bitcoin and Ethereum Trust shares. We've been highlighting this with all the bankruptcies as we're cleaning up the cryptocurrency space. These guys are going bankrupt. FTX just sold off a bunch of Solana, a bunch of Bitcoin. We're talking billions worth. And it just so happened to be after Solana pumped up. You know, I'm sure that was just a strange coincidence, right? That Solana pumped all the way up to $100 and the bankruptcy trust was basically selling off, I think, about $70. So they didn't get the tippy top, but they got it on the way up. They had an exit strategy. The market maker magicians behind making sure that FTX clients were going to be made solvent, whoever that happens to be, right? And this is the type of manipulation that I'm talking about is still rampant in this space, and the cleaning up that still has to be done, and somebody has to eat that up. And of course, we have Wall Street that is eating up Bitcoin right now. Let me be very, very clear. This is significant. This is not something to downplay. The amount of Bitcoin that Wall Street is now eating up through the spot Bitcoin ETF is for real. I think that we're already over a couple 100,000 Bitcoin in all of these now. And this party's just getting started. We just opened this up within the last month, right? So there's a significant amount of these assets that are just getting cleaned, just like the vaults actually that we're seeing for the precious metals. Same thing. They're just getting cleaned out. But my concern is that somebody has to show up and buy, and maybe you do get big OTC buyers that come in and say, yeah, you know, like Ripple was eyeing the FTX XRP. Right? So you get somebody to come in OTC like that has the cash, that really doesn't impact the market that much because although it's sell pressure, it's 1 billion XRP being sold or 1 billion Solana being sold, you have OTC buyers to pull up right there and clean it up. Or in the case of Wall Street, obviously they're needing to get their hands on hundreds of thousands of Bitcoin and take it into their possession right now. So, you know, there is a lot of buying. I mean, clearly, we can see that there's more buy-side pressure than there is sell-side pressure in this crypto market right now. You know, you don't have to be a TA expert to see that. But what we do see is the continued Operation Choke Point and assault on this space by Gary Gensler. Now, today he showed up on Squawk Box with Andrew Ross Sorkinson and Joe Kernan. And we had Joe Kernan coming to the defense of Bitcoin. He kept on interrupting Andrew and Gary Gensler. It was actually pretty funny. So the Bitcoin bros must have got to Joe, and they got him defending and shilling Bitcoin up here on Squawk Box CNBC. But I want to show you guys this clip here because we have Gary Gensler who's not backing down from this space. And it's so interesting to me because when I go hang out in other crypto spaces, I really don't like it, first off, because a lot of the conversations are not mature, they're not productive, they're just playing around, in my opinion. But no one even thinks of the legal aspects, and no one's even having the conversation about the legal part of the equation. And clearly, Gary and the gang, they feel like they have the law on their side, and they're coming to just take out everyone. This is a field that's been rife with fraud and manipulation. Look at all the bankruptcies. It's not just one entity, it's after entity lining up in the bankruptcy court. Let's listen in here on this clip.
By regulation.
Is that the problem, though? It's not necessarily Bitcoin, the underlying asset, but more the froth and the potential for fraudsters to use it that has been.
Well, this is a field, Becky, that's been rife with fraud and manipulation. And look at all the bankruptcies. And you've had on this set people talking about those various bankruptcies. And it's not just one entity. It's entity after entity after entity. And then investors are just lining up in the bankruptcy court.
What do you make of, this goes to the underlying piece of this. You've heard Jamie Dimon say that he would close it down. That basically Bitcoin
I've
you've
heard
seen the
him say
comments,
that.
right? It's not just that he closed it down, that he would say it's used by drug dealers and used by folks who are doing all sorts of illicit and terrible things. There's very few things that trade today that people talk about like that. Now, there are obviously frauds and things that happen, but maybe not like this.
Like the dollar is like 100 times more.
Well, I know that's your perspective, but I'm just I'm curious how you think about that.
Joe, you're not allowed to talk like that. You're not allowed to drop that truth on them like that.
That's true, though. This is how much has been money laundered with Bitcoin. This is how much. This is Bitcoin. This is dollar.
Yes, Joe. But look, here's the Jamie Dimon quote.
I didn't notice that the first time I watched this. I respect the sweat stains in the shirt. That's why I like to wear the dark ones. I respect the hustle, the sweat. I definitely respect that from Joe.
The only true use case for it is for criminals, drug traffickers, money laundering, and tax avoidance. I know, but we have a guest.
That's his opinion.
We have a guest, Joe. What is your opinion? And what is your opinion that we have something trading on the exchange for the public that has this type of use case, at least as described by the president of one of the largest financial institutions in the country?
It's the leading market share in ransomware, and that's publicly known.
Right.
It's the token of choice for ransomware. Joe, if I can say, the U.S. dollar, the euro, the yen, you have the whole society using it as a medium of exchange. We buy our cups of coffee, as I see here. Right. We get paid in dollars or yen or euro. And you have a whole central bank and support for one currency generally per economic region. That we don't have here. So there is a very real economic difference.
Which is part of the attraction, since it's decentralized, and you can't have a profligate central bank.
It's not that decentralized, Joe.
Well, I know you're saying because of the ETFs, but really it is
it's
for
not
DeFi
that decentralized
and everything.
Because look how finance tends towards centralization since antiquity.
Right.
So what do we have? We have a handful of 3 to 6 core so-called crypto
I understand,
exchanges.
but the asset itself, the way that
That's
the
how the
distributed
accounting ledger.
right?
See, I thought that Gary was going to hit us with the mining pools. I thought that he was going to say, right, that you got 3 to 6 large mining pools, but he was going with the exchanges, right? And Gary, he's got his talking points ready to go. You got to understand that, right? He comes in and he says the ransomware use case is dominated by Bitcoin, which makes sense, right? You're talking about cybercrime, I guess, right? That makes sense that Bitcoin is the number one choice in that regard. What Joe is saying is that all of the criminal activity combined, right? You have way more use in fiat funny money. Now, I just find it hilarious, though, that Gary is willing to show up here today and just still hammer back these points. Of course, they don't really question, Joe did push back. I did respect it. It's not that I agree with everything that Joe was saying, but I appreciate the way that he actually pushed back on Gary a little bit when he first brought, at the beginning of the conversation, they talked about how he did have a couple recent losses in the courts and how basically the SEC was trying to hold up the Bitcoin ETF before they finally let it go, because Gary was trying to play it off all smooth, like basically, take credit for the fact that they approved 11, that type of competition that they allowed brought down the fees. And so we should all be praising good guy Gary Gensler. So this was actually a pretty interesting back and forth that they did. It was like a 20-minute interview. And nonetheless, he is not going to let up. And with this current administration, you guys have seen that he's got the go ahead. They got the full on assault. And what they're trying to get in Congress is the ability to crank down even harder. Now, they need to clarify, too, who's got jurisdiction over what. That's what's being fought out in the courts right now because Congress hasn't done it. And then we have the bureaucratic beast here, the SEC and the other 3 agencies that are going after good Americans. And they just continue this assault on any opportunity in this country. Now, that's an overgeneralization, but you guys get my point, right? To allow free markets to thrive, right? And what they've done with the amount of overreach and why they have to continue to overreach is because it's control. That's why it's regulatory capture of the digital asset space here, is they have to control. It's not a matter of they want to be able to observe it, watch it, get paid their fees. They want to make sure that their buddies are taken care of. That's why you have to go, Ripple's obviously the biggest threat to the incumbent banking and financial system. This is why you have to go after them first and stall them out for 3 years in this lawsuit. Now, let's get into it, folks, because we have big news for Ripple and XRP. I want to get right on into it. I appreciate everyone for stopping by. I did see a super chat from Tyrus, I believe that was. So a huge shout out to you, my friend. I really do appreciate all the love and support. And we got to get into this, folks, because this is absolutely massive. We're talking building out the infrastructure layer, the one-stop shop for liquidity and digital asset solutions. And yes, Standard Custody and Trust is a bank in New York. It's a bank for digital assets in New York. It was a subsidiary of PolySign, and Ripple has just basically requested to buy them out. And now, funny enough, it has to go through the regulators. They have to sign off on it and approve of this to go through. Is this going to be another way that they try to get back at Ripple and they hold up this process as well? Maybe they deny it completely. We're going to have to see, folks, but we got Ripple sharing it, and this one came out yesterday. We're excited to announce that Ripple has signed a deal to acquire Standard Custody. And Monica Long, the president of Ripple, retweeting out, she says, as we integrate custody more deeply into Ripple's products, we see clear synergies with Standard Custody to complement our payments and custody offerings, all in service of being a one-stop shop to move, convert, and store value with blockchain and crypto. That's the line right there, folks. That's the new talking point that I'm going to be running with. The all-in service of being a one-stop shop to move, convert, and store value with blockchain and crypto. Move, convert, store value in crypto. It's done. It's over. And you bet we didn't see, we are seeing some XRP price action right now. As we are speaking, as we are running up this live show tonight, 7:30 on the West Coast, 10:30 Eastern, we are seeing some action. On the XRP price chart, we're up to 55.5 cents. We did go up to about 56-cent level. We'll check back on that in 1 second. Brad Grindhouse, with Standard Custody, we'll be able to improve existing product offerings for our customers, as well as explore new products and use cases, all in a fully compliant way. This is what's important. Ripple has secured nearly 40 U.S. money transmitter licenses, MPI licenses for the Monetary Authority of Singapore, and the VASP registration with Central Bank of Ireland and counting. And what's so important about this one, folks, go take a look at this. This is the website, standardcustody.com. They are Standard Custody and Trust Company is an institutional grade custody, escrow, and settlement platform for digital assets. Now, this is what's critical. Standard Custody and Trust Company receives bank charter status from New York State Department of Financial Services. You will hear this, this agency, this department, I guess is the proper name, the NYDFS, right? Okay, and this is really important to understand how important this is. This is what you need to act as a bank in New York. Once you have this one, you're pretty much ready to get turned on in every other state, right? The New York is the financial capital of the world, other than London, right? Now, what we see here, very important. Now, they get this charter status is to operate under New York State banking law as a regulated, qualified custodian. The New York State Department of Financial Services charter permits Standard Custody to offer custodial and escrow services for clients seeking to unlock the value of digital assets and open new investment opportunities across the world of decentralized finance. Now, we have been talking about DeFi coming to the XRP ledger. And when we're talking about DeFi coming to the XRP ledger, sure, I'm excited to play with it, the AMM. Have a little fun, buy some NFTs, buy some tokens, use the DEX. That's all great. But we're talking about getting all of our ducks in a row for the largest institutions in the world to start moving value in crypto, to store, move, or convert value in crypto digital assets. And we have Medico. See, the acquisition of Medico, they're more of the payment flow. They're more of the technology side of that. What they've done here too, this was a technology play as well, but it also was a trust and custodial company, right? For institutional grade quality. And fact that they went and got this license, this is the big one. This is to become a bank. And people talked about Ripple becoming a bank. We saw the entity, right? The trust, the entity that they had out in Delaware. Actually, no, it was the one in Wyoming. I believe that they have they might have the banking charter or some sort of deal in Wyoming. I got to refresh on that one. I obviously need to refresh because now they have over 40. And this is the big one for becoming a bank, being able to actually custody some real money. So we're not talking about just storing digital assets, right? We're talking about actually being a real bank. Okay. Now, this is so massive. Never forget the people who sit on the board of directors at Standard Custody that Ripple is planning to acquire. This one is from Anders. And if you haven't already, make sure you follow Anders. He has been on fire lately. This is Tim Keeney, the vice chairman, retired vice chairman of BNY Mellon, head of asset processing and global markets, led organization of 25,000 people responsible for custodying 25% of global institutional assets. That's what Tim Keeney's been up to at BNY Mellon. Now he's the vice chairman of Standard Custody. The all-star team that they have is top-notch. It's right up there with the caliber of Ripple, obviously, with Arthur Brito being part of this, and PolySign, right? And Jack McDonald. And this whole PolySign story, we're still waiting to see this thing kind of play out. Many people in our community very interested in PolySign because the rumor went out, right, that they were in trouble. And now you're seeing here that they sell off a subsidiary part of PolySign, which is Standard Trust and Company. And this is, I think, probably a great solution for PolySign, any issues that they had. They're getting that liquid capital, and then they're selling off this portion, which just slides right in. It's another pillar in the infrastructure that Ripple is building. Medico is more, kind of on the technology side of custodying. And right here, they're on the technology side of it too, but then they also can do the traditional world as well. So what we saw from the Ripple team, right, they put out that post on LinkedIn that said, hey, we're going to be going live in the US with new products here soon. And then we saw the former employee who said, big news coming. Well, this was the big news, folks. We are finally getting some price action too. But you have to understand that moments like this aren't about price action. This is not about a little pump. This is like not a game. This is not a little pump game. This is the biggest deal that's been done in digital assets yet. Between this and Medico, right? Ripple is positioned themselves to be a lender of last resort, and now they're set up to be a bank. They have the custody solutions in place. And then as soon as we get the AMM going live on the XRP ledger, we will be able to source some of the best liquidity in the world on the XRP ledger. Ripple can obviously help make that happen. The other thing that we were talking about was the going live in the United States with their partners. How do you go live with banks and institutional partners when you can't even custody their assets? Now, Medico, although it is a custody solution, right? But they're based out of, where are they based out of? Switzerland? They're based out of somewhere else, right? That's great. There's a play there. That's another pillar in Ripple's infrastructure. But then what this added was the banking charter in New York. So important. Now, I'm telling you, the roster that they got is top notch. Here's another one for you right here. Former New York Department of Financial Services, like I said, you're going to be seeing that one a lot. The NYDFS regulator, Matthew Homer, joined Standard Custody and Trust Company Board of Directors. This was in October of 2022. So they've just been adding massive players to their team. And obviously, they have the creator of the XRP ledger on board, Arthur Brito, David Schwartz with his piece in PolySign. I don't think, it doesn't really seem like David's really spent too much time on Standard Charter. I think most of his focus is on Ripple, but you see that you go down the list there at Standard Charter, it's no joke. And then the fact that they got the green light, this puts them ahead of most players in the space. Now Ripple has all the pieces that they need to go live with US partners in the United States because they can store your dollars And then they can also store your XRP and help facilitate all of your digital asset move, convert, store. Move, convert, store digital asset value. They got you covered. And this is, I think, one of the final pieces here being put in place before we get the full green light on Ripple. And the final green light is getting the SEC lawsuit out of our way, right? Now, there's nothing really stopping them going live from U.S. partners, and it appears that they're already trying to. This deal needs to be approved, and then the AMM needs to go live, right? And then we need to get the SEC lawsuit behind us, and then they can build out the liquidity on the DEX, and then they have the custody solutions there. Now, what we're having set up here is the clawback amendment just went live, and then the DID, XLS40D. With all of these amendments going live, it's giving these institutions the tools that they need, like clawback and others, to issue assets on chain. This is why Franklin Templeton, $1.5 trillion asset manager, chose the Stellar network, is because clawbacks were already there. They didn't need smart contracts on Stellar for them to go launch the mutual fund on Stellar. They chose to do that. They filed that with the SEC. And it's, actually the most recent numbers that I have is that Stellar actually has the most real world assets tokenized on their chain, because Franklin Templeton alone is worth a few $100 million. But this is all coming to the XRP ledger now. And this acquisition is just, I can't highlight enough how big of a deal this is. Continuing on, Wrath of Kahneman, to my point of getting new issuers, more stable coins, more issued assets on the chain, is Ripple. At what point does Ripple issue their own stable coin? Do they custody acquisitions suggest it? Use it in an AMM liquidity pool, put it on exchanges with much greater attestation and compliance than USDT and USDC. Maybe too much capital outlay. The AMM is awesome, but who will fill the liquidity pools? Sean McBride, this is the former employee that said the big news was coming. Ripple has tons of capital. I'm super interested in your thought here, though. Why move away from XRP and its utility with progress being made, and many, including the World Bank, already classifying XRP as a stable coin? Thank you for all your research and insight. It's truly appreciated. Now, in the document that the World Bank put out, they do call XRP and they do call XLM both stable coins. I am of the opinion that they put that term in there because the transaction happens in 3 to 5 seconds, i.e., the risk exposure, the amount of time that you're actually exposed to currency valuations and exchange is only 3 to 5 seconds. So that payment is relatively speaking stable, even though the asset can be moving up and down and be very volatile, right? It's not stable like a US dollar, but when you're sending a cross-border payment that involves two different currencies, the exchange rate exposure that you have that can last hours, days, weeks before the transaction gets settled, you got a lot of exposure there. Not a very stable transaction, even though you're using quote-unquote stable dollars. You get the point? With XRP, with XLM, you're done in 3 seconds. Your exposure is nothing. That's why I believe that the World Bank called XRP and XLM stablecoins. I also do believe that there's an understanding that this thing's going to go and it's going to stabilize at a much higher price. I'll let you guys let me know in the comments what you think that higher price it gets stabilized at is. I wouldn't dare speculate here, but I'll let you guys let me know how high you guys think that we're going to be at before we get stable. And what happens is liquidity stabilizes it, right? And it stabilizes these liquidity pools. And as I've been suggesting, Ripple can go with their on-demand liquidity partners and say it's Bitso, the largest exchange in Latin America. And they say, we want you to issue pesos on the XRP ledger. We're going to issue US dollars on the XRP ledger. And we're going to have ourselves a pool here, and we can put, $1 billion XRP in on this side of the liquidity pool, and you put in $1 billion on that side. You know what I'm talking about? Like, we have the ability for Ripple and their on-demand liquidity institutional partners to put in hundreds of millions and billions of dollars worth of liquidity at the snap of a finger. And I was literally listening to a conversation earlier today, and someone was suggesting that retail traders needed to show volume on the DEX to get outside issuers want to use the DEX. And I'm thinking, what makes you think that these institutions give a rat's you-know-what about us playing around and trading on the DEX? If they want to use the XRP ledger, they're going to come use it. And if they have volume to bring on, then they will bring it. And that's what actually moves the needle in a big way. We're yet to see it happen, but we're seeing all the infrastructure being laid out. This acquisition just completes it. Ripple is growing their New York office, offering 15 job openings right now. This is in contrast to their headquarter office in San Francisco that offers just 11 job openings at the moment. Whoa, so maybe they need to add a few more there with standard custody as well, and they're looking to grow in New York. Now, Sean McBride, this former Ripple employee, ex-Google, ex-Amazon, ex-Ripple, Sean's been around, it looks like, says that he has a guess that they will IPO in Singapore. So it's going to be very interesting to see. Right here, this comment, 35% of their openings were outside the US in 2022, over 50% in the first half of 2023, 70% since then. That should tell you something. And so, you know, it's funny. He said that he's on NDA, so there's some things he can't talk about. He has some confidence in the way that he's speaking on Twitter, and so I just take note of it. I have a smile on my face when I read off these tweets, and it's getting me very excited considering that we're about to get this SEC crap behind us. We already, what we're doing is buying. We're not going to apply. Now, obviously, the regulators have to sign off on this deal, but you have to think about how much better this is. Obviously, Ripple's already gone out and gotten money transmitter licenses themselves, over 40. But what you do is you just pay up and you save time, you save money. Unlike the SEC lawsuit where they're just burning money and it's taking them 3+ years. The complete opposite on the other end of the spectrum, they're just going, buying Medico. Went to buy Fortress Trust, wasn't worth it. Not a good deal, they backed out. That's what we want to see. Now, with standard custody, we'll see if the deal gets completed, but you can see where they're trying to go with this. They want the custody solution. They want to be a bank. It's just that simple. They want to be a bank. And I'm telling you right now that they're going to help. Either they can do it themselves or they can get other partners to issue assets and stablecoins and currencies on the XRP ledger. And I'm talking about Circle issuing USDC. I'm talking about SBI Holdings issuing Japanese yen, Philippine peso. Why not? Tranglo issuing all the Southeast Asia countries, whatever country that they want. Fire it up. And you need respected issuers on Ledger for it to be respected. Now we have over 8,000 tokens on the XRP ledger. How many of those are from respected issuers? And even if they're respected, does that mean that they're creating real value? This is all going to change, though, very quickly. Now, we see Sean McBride. Yeah. He says that Ripple's going to IPO outside of Singapore. I don't think that they will. I think that they are going to wait to do it in the United States. They're setting up in New York. They're buying standard custody. And it's just a bigger FU to the SEC and everyone that tried to bring them down to do it here in America. On top of that, and what really matters most too, besides your pride and how I would think of it, right? That's how I would think, is the money side of it is also we have the largest capital markets as well. Now, could they IPO outside the US and get a good number? I do think they can. I think that they are well known as a global company. And I do think that then when they do go public, it is going to be one of the biggest that we've seen in the world, not just in fintech, not in cryptocurrency companies. We could see Circle go public before Ripple. I'm telling you guys right now, Circle actually could be a massive IPO themselves, but Ripple, I really think that they are going to be a massive one, considering the fact that the escrow that they hold is worth more than the largest IPO that's ever been done, which was Saudi Aramco at $25.6 billion. And when you look at XRP, if we watch these charts right now on XRP, a 55-cent XRP, Ripple's bag of XRP is worth more than that Saudi Aramco IPO. That's why I've been talking about how I think they could have the largest IPO ever in the world. That's not clickbait. That's not hype. Their bag of XRP is worth more than the largest IPO right now as we're talking. Take a look at these charts, folks. 55 cents right now for XRP, back down and it did go up to about 55.8. So almost up to 56 cents. Drop those comments, questions down below. If you guys haven't already, please like that video. Cheers everyone for stopping by. Let's do a little bit of Q&A, and we'll take a look at the charts here as well. 45 minutes, that's what we're talking about. That gives us 15 minutes for Q&A. Let's rock and roll. I appreciate all of you guys so much. Wearing the black to hide the hustle stains. That's right. I was just watching that classic clip of Steve Ballmer in front of Microsoft, in front of the whole company, sweating the storm off, jumping up and down. That's the type of passion I'm talking about, baby. Let's get into it. Q&A. What are we working with, guys? And we got the charts are just ripping, absolutely ripping, guys. We see that Bitcoin's back above 52,000 right now. I'm going to zoom in on this action. We need to take a closer look. Bitcoin up to 52,000, ETH at 28, XRP at 55, and then this is where it's been really getting exciting. SHX stronghold going ridiculous. I just dropped my first video on SHX earlier today. Make sure you guys go check it out. Another one of my little coins that I picked up. 92.5 cents for the SAY token. That's big, folks. We're making money. Flare, there we go. 3 and a third. The 33. 3 cent flare. Okay. Now silver and gold both beat up, guys. Silver back below 22 bucks. And I'll tell you what, it's been holding 22 bucks really well. Really has. That's the big one. And then gold's been holding 2,000, but we finally broke below. They finally beat us down. Let me know in the comments, are you guys buying the dip on gold and silver? Are you guys buying crypto? We do have my affiliates for gold and silver at my website, zachrector.com. You guys already know that deal. I just pointed at my website and I realized that my screen's black. That's the thing. I don't know why. I can't keep my TV on longer than 15, 20 minutes. I try to move the mouse every once in a while, but I got to get that figured out. Anything else that I needed to take a look at? Gold and silver. Golly, look at these things. These stocks, they did correct back down, but they're still up here near all-time high. S&P 500 at 5,000. Closed the day at 5,000 for the S&P 500. Incredible. Peaky, what's up, brother? XRP 5589. High on BitTrue. Happy Valentine's Day, all. That is so good. And it was so important. I did get wifey some flowers. We did go out to breakfast, and it was very nice. And I didn't spend all day on the AMM. That was good. I really wish the AMM was live. And to be honest, I wouldn't have been spending all day on it. It doesn't take that long to put some liquidity in these things. But and I'm sure that the day the AMM goes live, who knows if we'll even have a product ready to go, like an interface built into Zaman, an interface built into any of these exchanges. Probably not. So it's going to be interesting to see on the day that the AMM goes live what happens with XRP. I wouldn't be surprised if price goes down for some reason. I do have bars and coins for my silver, yeah. Peaky, where was your other super chat? Why did I only see one? I see you drop two, but I only see the one comment. I'm looking for it. I lost it, Peaky. What was the other question? I'm a keeper, thank you. Yeah, my clock needs a battery. I mean, you know, it's just to set a deal back there. When you're 50K buyback, you know, it's funny that people still want to try to come and have that conversation and talk that smack. I'm like, you guys just have no idea what you're talking about. Don't embarrass yourself. Got to spend ample time with the wifey Z. Amen. Amen. Happy wife, happy life. I know that deal. Let's, gosh, this XRP chart. Wow. Folks, XRP. Should we zoom in? 15-minute candles. Wow. She's a ripping. All right. What do you guys say? How much more life do we have in this pump? Let me know in the comments down below. Hanlons, thank you so much. Thank you for the 10 spot. Thank you. Really appreciate that. Brenda, yes. Just trying to set some riddles for the riddlers. You know, got to show love. Got to show love for the riddlers. By the way, I forgot to mention, guys, if you are looking to scoop up Ripple private equity, you guys know that Link 2 has it available. I have my link on down below. When you use my link, you will get $500 towards your first investment. And right now they are offering it at $40 per share. If you spend over $10,000, that share price drops down to $38.87. So get it while it's there. You know, Link 2, they load up, gets cleaned out. They load up, gets cleaned out. So while it's there, you can use my link if you guys want to save $500 towards your first investment. Romel wants it to come back down. What, you want to buy some more, huh? Appreciate you guys so much. Has anyone discovered how XRP and XLM are linked? Well, XLM is a fork of the XRP ledger. Yeah, for all intents and purposes, basically the definition of a fork. And Jed McCaleb was one of the 3 creators of the XRP ledger, and he left Ripple over disagreements to go start Stellar and the Stellar network. And they created 100 billion tokens, decided that was a bad idea, burned half of them. It didn't do much for the price, but they did burn half the supply. And that's kind of the story with XLM Stellar in a nutshell. And obviously they're doing a little bit more than that. They are at the table with some real institutions. Franklin Templeton, Wisdom Tree have both issued real world assets on chain. Very big deal. And so Stellar's headed in the right direction. They're about to actually add smart contracts to the Stellar network as well too. It's going to be very interesting to see that one play out. Yeah, I need more. I feel ya. I feel ya. And here's the thing, guys. Just remember, it's easy to think coulda, woulda, shoulda. You know, I could have thrown more at Stronghold. I could have thrown more in at Flare. I could have done. We all could have, you know, made different decisions. But this is why we got to stay in the game. We can't sit back. I'm kicking myself for, you know, sitting back on some of these other coins that I should have gotten into. Like for Flare example, I sold off Flare that I had, and I think 2 cents, you know, and it was all the Flare that I'd received from the airdrop, but I just sold it off because I'd gotten so frustrated with the whole program with Flare. Now I take a minute to research everything that's going on, and I understand why they made the decisions that they made. Not that I necessarily agree that they were the right ones, but and they're building real utility. Whether I agree with them or not on giving all of the future airdrops to the original XRP holders, doesn't matter if I agree or not. Are they building utility? Yes. Are they getting people that matter to actually use their blockchain? Yes. Right? With Google coming on to be a FTSO. That's very important. The data utility case there that they got, incentivizing those that provide data, very, very good utility. Absolutely. And the ability to bring utility and smart contracts essentially to chains that don't have it, big, massive utility as well. But I know a lot of people are kicking themselves, and for me, that's kind of why I FOMO'd into these projects. Is I was just like, man, you know, I wish I would have bought them cheaper. They're already ripping, but I like the fundamentals. I like the story. I'm just going to scoop up some so that at least if it you know, I can double or triple up my money, then, you know, I can say that I partaked in the gains. Is it anywhere Is it going to build generational wealth? No. That's the point. I spend most of my time on doing tasks, doing jobs, and spending my focus and attention on the things that are building the real infrastructure to really build wealth, not to flip a couple $100, right? But, these projects I think are set up to do really well this bull run. And right now I'm having to trade without leverage, which sucks. I like to use a little bit of leverage, but I'm basically just trading these spot positions on cryptocurrencies right now. Are you looking at XLM's Velo? I've heard of it. I've not taken a look at it. I definitely can. Definitely can. Here's the problem. Many projects struggle to show that anybody's actually using their token, right? That's the main problem that I have with 99% of crypto opportunities. Yeah, Thad, thank you. I appreciate the comment. Uphold finally got ICP. There you go. Francelin, I appreciate that comment. Thank you. Glad you appreciate the work. Where do you trade with leverage? Oh, geez, there's so many different platforms to trade with leverage. I can't. I'm in a state that sucks. Yeah, so XRP back down to 55.2. 55.2. In Bitcoin, 52.3. Few more minutes for questions, comments. Guys, drop those comments, questions down below. If you haven't already, please like this video. If you are new here, make sure you subscribe, hit that notification bell. I got more videos dropping tomorrow. And if you guys missed it, make sure you guys go listen to the investor interview that we just did with Rick Rule, legendary investor. We're talking $100 million plus net worth. We're talking like legend in the commodity investing space. And we just had him on the show and we aired it last night. And if you guys didn't catch that one, you're definitely going to want to go back and watch that one. It's about an hour-long interview. It's a good one to listen to. And you might even have to listen to it a couple times because it's big macro stuff on the economic front. We break it down on the U.S. economy, and then we go into commodities and the opportunities. But Rick Rule, absolute legend. It was an honor to have him on the show. Any questions, comments, guys? Why would it be hard for people to cash out in their legal name? Well, if they're trying to do silly stuff, I mean, they might have some issues. I don't think that you'll have any issues if everything's on the up and up. You'll have no problem. I mean, all these exchanges, centralized exchanges, require KYC. So, you shouldn't have any issues. XRP, thank you. Thank you, Mark. Thank you. Who's going to replace Sleepy Joe? It's a good question, Nair. It looks like Newsom could be a good pick, or Michelle, the old switcheroo, a little transition. Crypto Mountain Man, I appreciate the comment. Thank you so much. Brenda, thank you. Good to see you, Brenda. Shane, good question. Do I have any interest in dividend stocks? Yeah, but I have interest in dividend stocks, but I have no interest in the stock companies that are available right now on the public markets. I mean, for me, I'm mostly looking at private placement opportunities, and then there's a few companies in the commodity space that I am interested that are already public. I don't even know if they pay off a dividend right now, though. Eventually, but like you know the deal, Shane. The amount of inflation that we're dealing with, if you're not looking at 10% plus, yeah, you could being paid a 5% dividend, a few percentage points, right? that's great, but is it even going to get you ahead? And is the underlying stock going to perform well is another thing to consider. Check out Evernode. Yeah, how is Evernode doing? Is Evernode? I know that Evernode like pumped super hard. I don't know how it's doing now. Anyways, guys, I'm gonna wrap up this show. Everything can be found on my website, zachrector.com. I appreciate everyone for stopping by. We got fresh content coming for you guys tomorrow, so make sure you guys stay tuned. And I just appreciate everyone's support. It really means the world to me. Thank you so much, and I will see you guys in the next one. Take care. God bless.